Welcome to our Bill of Materials section. A Bill of Materials is usually a table that accompanies a drawing. This table would have information like the part names, part numbers, quantity of parts, materials, surface finish, and any other information we might require to have. We will usually find Bill of Materials accompanying drawings for assemblies. In this section, we'll explore how to generate a standard bill of materials using SOLIDWORKS Drawing Tools. Also, we will explore how to add custom property information to our bill, how to modify our bill, and how to add equations to come up with calculations within our bill of materials. In addition, we'll explore how we can present different configurations of parts or assemblies in our bill of materials. We broke the topics in this section into small video lectures to make them easy to digest. By the end of this section, you will have no issues creating and adding bill of materials into any SOLIDWORKS assembly drawing. In this lecture, we're going to discuss creating a bill of materials. A bill of material is usually an important part of an engineering drawing. A bill of material will include all the materials, parts, and sub-assemblies required to build a specific assembly or a product. To illustrate creating a basic bill of materials, we will complete the following task. Our client just gave us this assembly and asked us to create a bill of materials for it. This assembly belongs to a cover cap for a turbine. It consists of 6 different parts and one sub-assembly that have 3 different parts. You can download all the parts and the assembly from the download section linked to this lecture. To start, we'll open a drawing file first. So I'll go to New and select Drawing. And then I'll check out my drawing views. Among the views available, there is an isometric exploded view. So I'll go ahead and insert that. To insert a bill of materials, we can go to the Annotation tab, expand Tables, and select the option for Bill of Materials. We'll see many options appear on the left. For now, we're only going to look at the Bill of Materials type. And usually, Bill of Materials is abbreviated as BOM or BOM. So for now, I'll keep it on top level only and press OK. And by this, we have created a basic bill of material. Now let's go ahead and take another look at the other types available. So I'll go ahead and select my table, and then the options will appear again. The first type is top level only. This will basically show all the first level parts and sub-assembly. It will not show the parts within an existing sub-assembly. If we select parts only, the table will show the list of individual parts without indicating sub-assemblies. The last option is Indented. This will show both the first level parts, sub-assemblies, and the parts listed within those sub-assemblies. So let's check this out. So now you see the sub-assembly, which is called damper assembly, and the 3 different parts within it. Under Indented, I have few options of how to show the numbering. So currently it is set at no numbering, which means the parts in the sub-assembly will not be numbered. If I write in detailed numbering, you will notice the numbers for the sub-assembly parts. And if I select flat numbering, I'll have numbering goes in a sequence from 1 to 9. For our purposes, I'll keep the BOM type as Indented, and I will have no numberings for the sub-assembly parts. So I'll go ahead and click OK. The first column shows automated numbers for the different items we have, and those are only shown on the table for now. If we want to show those numbers in the drawing as well, we can simply go to the Annotation tab and select Auto Balloon. So let's go ahead and try this out. I'll go ahead and select, and then I will select the drawing I have, which is the isometric view. And this will show different numbers in there. and those numbers correspond to the item numbers we have on the table. So I'll go ahead and click OK, and now I can do some adjustment to the table to make things a bit clearer. So I'll make this column smaller so I can see all the numbers in my drawing. And by this, we conclude this lecture on how to create a basic bill of materials that contains the default information of item number, part number, description, and quantity. In this lecture, we're going to talk about missing parts from the bill of materials. Sometimes a designer will choose to not include a specific part in the bill of materials. This could be because the part is somehow confidential, or the part is not important enough to list, or it could be of any other reason. In this lecture, we will address how to find those missing parts, how to add them to our bill of materials, and also how to exclude parts from the bill of materials. You can download the parts, assembly, and drawing files from the download section linked to this lecture. However, if you are coming from the previous lecture, you will not need to do that. There are two easy ways to find the missing parts. The first one is by looking at the auto ballooning result we have. And doing that, you will notice one of the parts does not have a number, but have an asterisk instead. This means the part is not listed in the bill of materials table. The other way is to look at the design tree. So if I go to the drawing view 1 and expand that, I'm going to find my assembly. I can expand that as well, and then make the design tree bigger. You will notice one of the parts says excluded from BOM or bill of material. This tells us that this part is again not included in our bill of materials table. To show this part in the table, I can simply right click on it from the design tree and select include in BOM. And then you will notice that a new part was added to the table, and in this case it was part number 7. Also, the asterisk was changed into a number. In case you would like to exclude a part from the bill of materials, here's how you can do it. You will need to do this from the assembly itself. So if I right click on this isometric view, I have the option of opening assembly, so I'll go ahead and do that. And now go to any parts I want to hide. So let's say I want to hide this part here. I can just click on it and then go to component properties. And here you will find the option to exclude from bill of materials. So if I have that checked, this part will be excluded from the bill of material. Another way to show the part is to also come back here and have this unchecked. Just make sure to always save the part afterward. So now let's just go back to my drawing sheet. And with this, we conclude this lecture on missing parts from the bill of materials. So while we're here, you can go ahead and experiment a bit more with excluding and including different parts to your bill of materials. Otherwise, we can print this drawing now and give it to our client. In this lecture, we're going to discuss adding additional information to our bill of materials. By additional information, we mean anything you would like to add in the BOM, in addition to the standard information of part number, description, and quantity. So we already did this bill of materials and provided it to our client. However, he takes a look at it and requests the following modifications. First, to change the title part number into part name. Second is to add 2 more columns, one with part numbers and the other with the cost. So let's go ahead and do those tasks. You can download the parts, assembly, and drawing files from the download section linked to this lecture. If you're coming from the previous lecture, you will not need to do that. Let's start with the first task, to change the title of the first column from part number into part name. Changing the title is quite easy. I can simply double click on the cell and then change it in the way I want. So I'll change the word number into the word name. And this concludes the first request we have. The second request is to add the part numbers as well as the cost. So I'll go ahead and add a new column for the part number, and I will add it next to the part name. So I'll highlight B, right click, and then go to Insert and select Column to the right. And this adds a new column. Once you add a new column, you'll get this window popping up, and this basically asks you to select what type of information you want displayed on this column. So under column type, we have a number of options: unit of measurement, equations, item numbers, and so on. If I select custom properties, I'll get another drop-down menu to select other options, and I would like to have part number. So I'll go ahead and select part number from here. And this displays all the part numbers we have. This bill of material is getting big, so I'll make it smaller. I'll highlight it all and then change the size. The other thing I need to add is the cost. So I'll go ahead and add another column, this time at the very end. Highlight the last column, go to Insert and select column right, and then I'll have the pop-up window again. Now if I click anywhere in my canvas, this window will go away. If I want to bring it back, I can simply highlight this column and select column property, and this will bring it back. Now under property name, I can expand and I want to select cost. So I'll go ahead and select that, and then I will have the cost for each part appear. And this completes the second task we have, which is to add columns for part number and cost. Now one might ask, where did those custom properties come from and what do they include? Custom properties, as well as other information like the description, come from the individual parts. So whoever created the part must have added that information. And those information could include anything the company requires or the designer wanted. For example, it could include the cost, name of manufacturer, name of designer, surface finish, manufacture date, etc. Before we conclude this lecture, we'll show you how you can change the information in an existing column. Assuming our client didn't want this description listed and instead he asked to change it to the part number. To do that, we can simply highlight the column, select column property, and then change description to whatever type of information we want. So if I select part number, you will notice descriptions will change into the part numbers. I don't really want to change that, so I'll change it back to description. And by this, we conclude this lecture on custom properties. In this lecture, we will discuss sorting the bill of materials and adjusting the item numbers. To illustrate those concepts, we're going to resort this bill of materials based on the part number. We'll also explore different options we have with the item numbers, which are automatically generated with each bill of materials. You can download the parts, assembly, and the drawing from the download section linked to this lecture. To sort entries in our table, we can highlight the column we want to sort by. So I will highlight the column for part number and then right click and select the option Sort. This opens a new window with different options of how we can sort our table. We can set up priorities to sort it by different options, or we can simply follow the order of the parts within an assembly. In this case, I would like to sort it by part number, so I'll select part number here, and I can change this option to any other column I have. And I want to have the sorting by a descending order, so I'll select descending, and then I can click OK to finish the sorting. Before I click OK, I'll draw your attention to this option, which basically says do not change item numbers. If I have this selected and I press OK, the item numbers, which were automatically generated, will stay the same and not shuffle back with the new items with their new descending order. I don't really require this option, so I'll leave it unchecked and then click OK. Now you notice our table was resorted based on the part number on a descending order. You'll also notice that the item numbers, the first column, changed as well to match the new order. Now those item numbers are automatically generated with each bill of material table. However, we do have very few options of how we can adjust them. So if I highlight the table, I'll have the options popping up on the side. And here I have a section for item numbers. The first option is to start at, and it's starting at 1. If I change this into, let's say, 4, you will notice the numbering changes to start at 4. I can also adjust the increment. So if I change the 1 into 2, you will notice the item numbers start increasing by an increment of 2. Below those two fields, you'll see an option to follow the assembly order. And if you try clicking on that, the table will be resorted to match the order we have at the assembly file. We also have a lock option, and if we have that selected, the item numbers will be locked to each part. So then any sorting you do, the item numbers will not change. So I'll keep my sorting. However, I'll change my start number to 1, and I will change my increment to 1 as well. And then click OK. And this concludes this lecture on sorting and item numbers. In this lecture, we're going to discuss adding equations to our bill of materials. Equations will allow us to do simple calculations and use simple functions. You can think of our tables with equations as a very simple Excel sheet. So we're working with a client and we provided him this drawing. After looking at it, he asked us to have 3 additional things. First is to add total cost for total number of parts. And we can find this by multiplying the cost of the part by the number of parts. And then he wanted us to find the total cost for everything, and also to find the most expensive total cost for an item. So let's go ahead and see how we can use equations to help us find those informations. You can download the parts, assembly, and the drawings from the download section linked to this lecture. If you came from the previous lecture to this, you might not need to do that. We'll start by adding the total cost for each part. So we'll insert a new column and then highlight the column and select the option equation. And then we'll have this small window popping up. Now what I want to do is to multiply the cost by the quantity. So I can simply come to this column option, open the drop-down menu and select cost, and then write an asterisk for multiply, and then go to the columns drop-down menu and select quantity. And then I can click OK. And this does it. Now I have new numbers popping up, and those numbers are multiplications of the cost and quantity. So the cost of 30 multiplied by a quantity of 5 equals 150. Now I can rename the title into total cost per part. So this is my first task. The second task is to find the total cost for all parts. And we can find this by adding all the values we have in this new columns we created. So to do this, I'm going to add a new row down at the bottom. So I'll highlight the last row, right click, go to insert and insert row below. I can make this smaller a bit. Now to make this look a bit better, I'll highlight those 3 cells and merge them, and then write in total cost for all parts. And then I can click on the cell next to it and select equations again. Now if I use the drop-down menu for functions, I will see different functions listed in here. For me to add all the values in that column, I have 2 options. I can simply select total and then click OK, and that will automatically add them. Or I can use the function sum. So if I select on sum, I can then highlight the cells I want to add and then click on OK. and this will add all the cells and give me a total number. So now we can go to the third task, which is to find the cost of the most expensive part. So again, I'll go ahead and add a new row. Again, I'll merge those three cells and type in most expensive part. I'll select the cell, go to equations, and this time I'm going to use the function max, and then highlight the cells I have, and then click OK. And this gives me the value of 10,000. And if I look at the total cost per part, you will find that the maximum cost is 10,000, which goes for the top cap and the plug. And by this, we conclude this lecture on equations. So while we're here, you can go ahead and experiment a bit more with creating more equations and using other functions. In this lecture, we're going to discuss presenting different configurations in our bill of materials. Just a background info, with configurations, a designer is able to create different versions of a part or an assembly without having to create more than one SOLIDWORKS files. To illustrate how we can present different part configurations in our bill of materials, we will examine the following assembly. This assembly consists of two different parts. One of those two parts have two different configurations. Also, the assembly itself have two different configurations. So let's go ahead and explore the different ways we can present those in a bill of materials. You can download the parts and the assembly files from the download section linked to this lecture. I will start by inserting isometric views for our two assembly configurations. So this is my first configuration, configuration 1, and then I can insert another one for configuration 2. And to change the configuration in a drawing, I can simply click on the view, and then here I can switch to configuration 2. And then click OK. I'll go ahead and change the display style as well to make things a bit clearer, and then I will add names to them. So this is configuration 1, and this is configuration 2. I'll move them up a bit as well to allow me more space for the bill of materials. So first, I'll go ahead and insert a bill of material for the assembly I have on the left. So I'll go to Tables, Bill of Materials, and select this assembly and click OK. This bill of material is just like the bill of materials we are familiar with. We have names of the parts, description, and then quantity for each of the part. Because the assembly have two different configurations, you'll notice in the quantity column, it says configuration 1 quantity because we are looking at configuration 1 of the assembly. Now let's go ahead and insert another bill of material for configuration 2. So I'll go to Tables, Bill of Materials, and select the second configuration. Make it a bit smaller. And in the second table, you will notice that one of the parts is repeated twice. And this part is the SQ block. And the reason it is being repeated is because we have two different configurations of this particular part. So if I change the description column into configurations, you will notice that the first block is under configuration without fillet, which is the red block. And then the second block is under configuration with fillet, which is the blue block. Now for this table, we can do some adjustment under part configuration groupings. So if I select this table and go to the options I have on the left, I will see a tab saying part configuration grouping, and it has few options under it. Those options can be used when we have more than one configuration of the same part within one assembly. So let's go ahead and explore them a bit. The first one, which is selected now, says display configurations of the same part as separate items. And this is the case. The SQ block is the same part with two different configurations, and it's displayed as two separate items. The second option says display all configurations of the same part as one item. And if I select on it, you will notice that the two SQ blocks will be combined into one entry in our bill of material. The third option says display configurations with the same name as one item. And this is a special condition when we have configurations of the same name, which is not the case at the moment. So for now, I'll keep it with the first option. So those are basically the different options under part configuration grouping. Now, if we look at our drawing, we have two different bill of materials representing the two assembly configurations we have. What if we would like to have them both in one table? Let's see how we can do that. So I'll use the second table I inserted as a base. I'll click on it, and then on the left, you will see a tab stating configurations. And if I expand that, you will see the two configurations I have, configuration 1 and configuration 2. Currently, the table only displays configuration 2, which is the one checked. If I want to display the other configuration, I can simply have it checked as well. So if I check on configuration 1, you will notice a new column appears which have configuration 1. So if I click OK, you will notice my bill of materials specify the quantities of each part under each different configuration. So now I don't really need the first table, so I'll go ahead and delete it and then bring this one to the middle and expand it a bit to make it more attractive. And with this, we conclude this lecture on configuration groupings and assembly configurations and how we can display them in a bill of materials. So while we're here, you can play around with those options.